You would not just introduce Ruby Dee, Sojourner Truth. You would not just introduce Maya Angelou. You would not just introduce Shirley Chisholm. It would be an occasion to bring them before you. You would not just introduce those heroines who stood in front of the battle lines, ensuring that everyone who stood behind them had the same passions they need. You would bring occasion to their words. You would not just introduce someone and use such a small word like introduction when an occasion will do. So is it with great pleasure that I bring to you someone who has the strength of Sojourner Truth. Someone who has the intellect of Shirley Chisholm. Someone who has the passion and compassion of Maya Angelou. And someone who has the determination of Rosa Parks. It is with great pleasure that I bring to you on this occasion our Attorney General, Ms. Kamala Harris.
The Civil Rights Act is indeed a living, breathing document that makes clear there are certain fundamental rights. And California has a long history of fighting to protect those rights. So today, 50 years later, we stand here, all of us, united as we rededicate ourselves to making real its promise. Folks, I was invited to the White House to talk about the work we're doing here. The work we're doing right here in Los Angeles, around Back on Track, LA, focusing on a public-private partnership with our faith-based leaders, with our leaders in our educational systems, with our leaders in law enforcement, and throughout the community, the Chamber of Commerce, all coming together around focusing on young, first-time, low-level offenders, and bringing education and jobs to them so that we can shut that revolving door that invariably leads to a public safety issue for us all. And on economic opportunity, we must continue to do what we as a great state have been doing, and I give credit to Governor Jerry Brown. We have signed and passed legislation increasing our minimum wage. We must continue to support that kind of policy as a way to lift people up. And we must recognize also, on the issue of economic opportunity, one of those fundamental rights, there is no question, we all know, and it is true, when you lift up the status of women, in that dynamic, you lift up whole communities. We've got to narrow that wage gap. And on immigration, you know, it's not a state issue, it's a federal issue. But the reality is, we've got to move this thing along. They need to pass comprehensive immigration reform at the federal level. And we've got to do everything as a state to make that happen. I am proud to share with you that last week I also issued a bulletin to all of law enforcement in the state of California to emphasize a very, very simple point. As the top cop of the biggest state in this country, it is clear to me on the law that local law enforcement should not be used as a tool of ICE and to patrol the streets as immigration enforcement. And we also have a duty, I believe, to understand the tool that the Civil Rights Act is for us, and all that it promised and made clear in terms of everything that led to it and what it does for us more specifically. It was the result, the Civil Rights Act, of kneel-ins, of sit-ins, of boycotts, of voter registration drives. It is the product of activists and politicians and students and faith-based leaders and lawyers and farm workers and even a seamstress who just didn't want to give up her seat on that bus. It was made possible, and this I cannot stress enough. It was made possible, I believe, as it all worked and as it must work, only because, as the bottom line, it created a coalition of people to support it, who understood there may seemingly be differences among us, but on these fundamental rights, there is no difference between us.
I came out to support the Attorney General. I think she's a great Attorney General, and I have nothing but the highest praise for her and what she's done and what her office has done. But I also came out to recognize a significant incident here. This is a milestone, and to talk about it and talk about where we've come from and where we have to go, I think is very important. So I wouldn't miss this for the world.
Kamala Harris is just such an amazing, amazing leader. Not just an amazing woman leader, but just a leader in general. She really gets to the root of the issues that impact people of color, really focusing on issues of poverty and education and social justice, and making certain that everyone has an equal opportunity to success, and addressing those barriers that prohibit equality from actually coming forth in a very systematic and strategic way. So I think that she's an amazing, amazing woman and mentor to me. I've had an opportunity to spend some time with her, and her insight is so prolific, and I know that she's going to be and already is a national leader for our nation and our generation.
Ms. Harris, you're also from Howard University like myself.
Yes.
How has that impacted your career as a politician?
Oh, in every way. Howard University was one of the most meaningful experiences I had, and I remain a very loyal vice in that way. I think it's critical, and supporting our historically black colleges and universities, I think, is also very